Welcome to the inaugural M Squared Power Hour podcast. I'm Andy Minton, and I am joined by my co-host, Joe Matthews.
Hey.
And our producer, Joey Emmerich.
What up?
We are previously on-air talent of a radio show by the same name that aired Johnson University's radio station. And I think Joe and I decided at lunch one day that we wanted to do a radio show and found out that they needed somebody for the Friday night spot on the radio show, but they wouldn't let me and him do it without a producer who was in the radio program. So that's where Joey came in.
Oh, yeah.
And if you know us, you would not trust us to run a board in a radio station either. So
no, they definitely wanted somebody to chaperone us. More than anything else, it was having chaperones in that booth.
Yes.
With us.
And they didn't even know us that well.
No.
And the sad part was they trusted me to chaperone you guys.
Yeah. So
very true.
A little more history on that chaperoning. While we were in that booth, a lot of craziness happened. A lot of awkward moments of me interrupting Andy and Andy staring at me while he's getting red-faced because I wouldn't let him speak. And then also, that was a fun day.
Uh-huh.
He's staring around a microphone thinking I'm going to kill this guy. And then we have producer Joey, who we talked into letting a black belt in jiu-jitsu demonstrate moves on him, even though we're a radio show.
Yeah, it made for great radio.
It made for great radio, hearing me and Andy laugh and Joey scream as, you know, this black belt's twisting him up in the pretzel and choking him out with his own T-shirt.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that was awesome.
So these are reasons why Johnson was hesitant about letting us just run a show.
But they did let Joey in the booth by himself for his own show.
Yes, they did.
That is true, which was not a smart move on their part either. But
yeah.
So just a little bit about us and what we're going to do. We are at Johnson. We were a sports show primarily, but we talked about faith. We talked about our lives, and we're going to continue down that road. Of course, we're going to talk about sports. We're going to talk about family. We're going to talk about food. And if you could see us three, you would know that we like food.
Oh, we don't pass up.
And most importantly, we're going to talk about our faith because that is the one thing I think that brought us together originally. And while we were at Johnson, it was because our call into ministry and bringing people to a saving knowledge of Christ. But before we get to that, let's talk about sports, and let's just go around and talk about our favorite sports teams and a little bit of how we became, fans of those sports or those teams or those specific sports. Joe, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go for it. So for me, my favorite teams are, I'll go sport by sport. For hockey, it's the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. And yes, I became a fan of theirs because of Emilio Estevez and the Mighty Ducks franchise on Disney when I was a kid. So I've always loved the Ducks. Basketball, Lakers fan. I'm a Southern California guy, so of course I got to love the Lakers. Football, Green Bay Packers. And a lot of people are like, you're from California, why not the Rams, Raiders, Chargers, any of those teams? I don't have enough felonies to be a Raiders fan, so I have 0, so I can't be the Raiders fan. I got the tattoos for it, but not the record. Chargers, no, just no. And the Rams, they're okay. But no, Green Bay, the high school my dad coached at, and then I eventually went to, had the Green Bay Packer uniforms. Same exact uniforms, except it was a B on the helmet instead of a G. So I grew up watching high school football, and that just lended itself to my fandom of pro sports. And then when I got to high school, I wanted to be Brett Favre. So, I wore number 44 because I couldn't get 4 my freshman year. And that's why I love Green Bay. And then baseball, of course, is the Dodgers. The LA Dodgers should have been World Series champions 2 years ago. Unfortunately, they're not, or 3 years ago now. But I just grew up watching the Dodgers with my grandmother. My grandmother loved L.A. Mike Scioscia, Oral Hershiser. She would always talk about Scioscia being her husband or her boyfriend. My grandpa would just leave because he didn't feel like listening to her. And I just grew up sitting at her feet watching baseball games with her, listening to Vin Scully. So sports fan through and through. And, of course, college football. It's the USC, University of Southern California, not South Carolina. No Gamecocks. It's all about Trojans. So that's my sports fandom, and I've just loved it my entire life. So what about you guys?
You trying to be like Ohio State and add "the" in front of the university
Yes,
name? It's
Hey,
bad enough when they do it.
only one
it is.
team can do that. Only one team.
It's only bad enough when they do it.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'll go next. I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee, so I am a volunteer fan. No matter what sport they put out, no matter what sport it is, I'd always joke that if they had an underwater basket weaving team, I would support the underwater basket weaving team. Um,
It's the only
and
team
Isn't that
that
the
then
wins.
major?
do what? Is that what'd you say,
I say,
Joey?
isn't that the major of most of their the athletes is like underwater
No,
basket weaving?
no, communications, just like any college athlete, except for Josh Dobbs. He picked the hardest one available. And then I'm a Titans fan in the NFL, a Preds fan in the NHL, a Braves fan in the MLB, and then I have to go way above the Mason-Dixon line for my NBA team, which is the Boston Celtics, and they have the most NBA champions of any team and probably the most dominant franchise of the NBA. Joe, did you hear that?
40
The
years
most
ago, right?
dominant. The
Yeah,
most dominant.
40 years ago.
No, of all
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
No.
And yeah, yes. And then I can go across the pond and pull for the Manchester United soccer team, football team. Can't say soccer over there. But anyway, that's about it for me. What about you, Joey?
For me, I am for college an Ohio State fan all the way.
Boo.
I know. Yeah. Only because you can't win.
You've
Can't
never
win. You
beat
gotta
us.
hate.
They've never beat us in football.
We've never played you. You're not good enough to
You
play
have.
us.
We beat you in the super. We beat you in the Citrus
This
Bowl
Super Bowl.
with the Heisman Trophy winner Eddie George.
Okay. All right. You're
Wait,
you're
in the
wait
Citrus
40.
Bowl?
In the Citrus Bowl.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. You can't spell Citrus Bowl without UT, right?
That's right.
So Ohio State fan through and through. Go Buckeyes. And have always been a Cincinnati Reds fan.
Sorry.
I know.
Yeah.
Proves that I'm never going to be the bandwagon fan because I'm a Cincinnati Bengals and Cincinnati Reds fan. Basketball, though, basically anywhere LeBron James plays is who I'm rooting for.
Hmm.
And that's because I watched him play in high school. Like, I got a connection with the dude outside of just the fact that he's an awesome basketball player. That and he'll always beat any team that Andy roots for.
Maybe.
Also, soccer, Columbus Crew through and through. And the other thing, when it comes to football, I am a big Cincinnati Bengals fan, but I lived about 2 years ago. I was living in Florida, where I lived for 5 years, down near Tampa, and I started to become a Tampa Bay fan, kind of. Would root for them when they got Jameis Winston. There was hope, and everyone was like, "Oh yeah,
That
we can
faded
finally
quickly.
have a good team." Yeah, that faded very quickly.
Oh yeah.
But I will say there is hope now with everything that's going on down there in Tampa Bay during this offseason. If there's a season next year, I think we have a chance to win more than 5 games.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I would hope so.
And this kind of goes into our next segment. Andy, if you want to talk about it, I'll let you talk about it.
All right.
Segue in there.
Okay. So Joey brought up the Buccaneers, and big news this offseason was that Tom Brady left New England, left Bill Belichick, and signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, I've heard interviews that said he decided he was leaving New England before the season. You believe what you want to believe. I never thought I would see him leave, just to be honest. Of course, I never thought I'd see Brett Favre leave Green Bay. Never thought I'd see Joe Montana leave San Francisco.
Oh yeah.
But all those things happen. Really never thought I'd see Peyton Manning leave Indy.
Indy, right?
And he probably would not have unless it was neck surgery.
Yeah.
So we'll never know about that. But yeah, Tom Brady, no longer a Patriot, but now he is a Buccaneer. Thoughts?
You want to go? You want to start with that one, Joey? Since you were almost a Buccaneers fan.
Yeah. Almost, but probably a Buccaneer. I will probably bandwagon this year and root for the Buccaneers just because.
I mean, why not? You already do it for the NBA.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, no, I'm excited about Brady doing that, but I don't know. I feel like a lot of the things I was hearing going into the offseason was that Tom Brady was wanting to go kind of somewhere to prove that it's not just him and Belichick are this amazing force, that he can be a good quarterback without the Patriots. And in my mind, going to Tampa Bay isn't necessarily proving that, because maybe the coach isn't as good as Belichick, but I would say they've got more weapons in Tampa right now than they do up in Patriots.
Yeah.
Oh, way more weapons.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, it showed with how the Patriots struggled this past year without Gronk playing.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I don't know, I almost feel like it's a cop-out that if he does well, he can say, see, I'm still a great quarterback when I left. If he really wanted to prove it, he would have gone up to Cincinnati or up to Cleveland and would have played for one of those two teams to prove that he was the best quarterback of all time.
But
go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, for me, it's I'm glad he went to a stacked team, because I mean, any smart quarterback's going to go to that team, right? Like I honestly, I thought Bridgewater would have been a great fit in Tampa, but instead he's in Carolina, and that's a whole nother. I'm going to pick him in my fantasy team next year, easily. But I think Tom Brady's, he's smart. He's not a systems quarterback. He's going to a completely different system than anything he's ever been in before, because you have the Patriot system, the dink and dunk, throw underneath and don't throw downfield that much. And now he's going to be pushing the ball downfield with, Mike Evans, was it Chris Godwin? Their tight end was OJ Howard. Yeah. And then coming out of the backfield, you have Ronald Jones. That team is stacked, and I think he's going to put up a great, have a great year, and that team's a playoff team. But it wouldn't be a playoff team with anybody at quarterback, because, I mean, look who they had last year. Jameis Winston and Jameis, whatever. Jameis, yeah. Jameis Winston. And they didn't make the playoffs. They had all of that talent, and they couldn't do it. And I think bringing in Brady is a great move, because he's a leader. Above anything else, he's a leader, and he's going to stand in the front and lead that team. And they might not go to the Super Bowl, but I think they're 10, 11, 12-win team, as they sit right now. And I think it's smart for him to do that. I would do that. I'm 42 years old. If I was him, 42 years old, and at the end of your career, man, sign that 2-year contract, go to the playoffs a couple times, and cement your legacy as a great quarterback and not a great system quarterback.
I do think he definitely went to a tougher division.
Yes.
Than he was in, because I mean, before he was facing the Dolphins, the Jets, and the Bills.
And the Bills are the only decent team out of that lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But now he's got the Saints, the Falcons, and the Panthers. And the Falcons. Of course, he beat the Falcons in the Super Bowl that year. But I mean, the Saints with Drew Brees and Sean Payton, they're always going to be good.
Right.
Falcons are pretty decent. The Panthers are pretty decent. So, I mean, the competition gets a little bit tougher. But I would argue that the Patriots were not always a dink and dunk team, because the time that they had Randy Moss, there was not a lot of dinking and dunking going on to Randy
Oh well,
Moss.
no, but
I mean, they
that's
were
Randy Moss. That's
right.
those
Right.
3 years are insane years. Like,
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
And but I will say that. I think that what he needs to prove is that he's not a system quarterback. That he's not
yeah,
just going to flourish in the Belichick system. But I think Belichick's a heck of a coach. I mean,
oh yeah,
I think he fits his game plan to what he has. I mean, I think he wants to prove something to himself, and I think he has something to prove to everybody about that he's not a system quarterback. I mean, he'll always be looked at as a great quarterback, in my opinion.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think we'll see. I think we'll see what he does out of the Belichick system, and that'll be very telling, in my opinion.
Do you think that, because there are a lot of people that think his career and legacy is kind of marred by the fact that the whole scandal with the Deflategate and the stealings, like going in and Belichick having someone videotape other teams' practices and stuff like that. Do you think if he does really good in Tampa, that's going to help him clear that? Like clear his name, kind of.
I think
That's
I know.
good.
I don't. I mean, I think once Tom Brady's career is said and done, nobody's going to talk about the Deflategate or Spygate or whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah,
I think it'll be talked about the difference in what he did in New England and what he did in Tampa Bay. If they're sitting around 500, then he'll be like, oh well, away from Belichick.
yeah.
With Belichick he was great, but once he left the Belichick system, it hurt him. We'll see.
And when you look at Deflategate too, because he's deflating the footballs, and they came out and said that taking air out of footballs does not help them fly better. It doesn't help you throw the ball better. If anything, you want them to push the ball down the field. You want them overinflated, because that makes them harder and more aerodynamic. So the only thing that deflating the football does is it gives you a better grip and it's less likely to fumble. So that's something for the whole team. That's
right.
They fumble less.
But when
but
you're
he's
dinking
still
and dunking, you don't have to go all the way down the field.
Yeah. So for me, I mean, like, who cares? He took some air out of the ball. Like, for personally, I don't care about it.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying because there are a lot of people that do care. Like, I'm not saying we do, but
right.
Yeah.
In general, when you talk to other NFL fans, there's a lot of people, and I almost wonder if he doesn't get over 500, if they're not in the playoffs this next year, if people are going to say, well, when you're not with the cheating Patriots, you don't have a chance to make it. If you're Tom Brady, you can only win if you cheat.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
I think,
and I know most of his career hasn't been cheating. I mean, that's only 2 times in his entire career that something came up about
2 times that we know of.
Well,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. But that we know. But I think he's just gonna pull a Montana. Montana went to KFC to KC.
We know where Joe's mind's at.
Right?
We told you.
Yeah.
Family,
all about
food,
food.
sports.
Yep. But he went to KC, Kansas City, for 2 years, and they went to the playoffs both years, AFC title game one year, and I feel like the same thing with Tampa. Like, he'll go get in the playoffs 2 years, and it's not going to hurt his legacy. I mean, the guy's got 20-year career, 6 Super Bowls, 9 Super Bowl appearances. Like, he played half his career in the Super Bowl, which is absolutely insane.
Garbage.
So, yeah.
No, I'm
Yeah.
joking. I give a lot of respect to him. I mean, the guy has a really good career.
Yeah.
You're just mad because he's a Michigan guy.
That too. Yeah, the reason why he cheats, but
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's right, because Ohio State's like sending their quarterbacks out. Like, look at Burrow, potential number 1 overall pick in the draft, and couldn't even see the field in Ohio. So, man.
Well, yeah, but the guy that took his spot in Ohio did pretty good this year himself. So,
But he wasn't good enough to see the field in Georgia.
That's true too.
But anyway, back to Tom Brady.
Yeah.
I think I mean, you drew the comparison to Joe Montana going to Kansas City. I don't know if Kansas City was everything that Joe Montana thought it would be. I think, if he had to pick, maybe he stays with San Francisco. Hindsight's 2020. But
it wasn't his choice.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he may, grass is always greener on the other side, I guess. But we'll have to see when the season starts how they do and what his season looks like, what his time in Tampa Bay looks like.
Oh yeah. I mean, he's still TB12 now. He's like double TB12.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I got a question. Talking about quarterbacks that could have gone to Tampa and been great there. Do you think Tony Romo's kicking himself if Tom Brady goes and has a great season?
No,
he's laughing all the way to the bank with those checks he's getting.
And not just that, but Romo, like the dude was getting injured. Like he broke a bone in his back, broke his collarbone. Like he was at the point where, if you want to have any quality of life, just take your money and run. And he's such a good analyst that he's probably going to make more in the long run talking on TV than he ever would have playing quarterback. Especially when he's calling out the other team's plays before they run them.
Every play before it's run.
Yeah. Oh, look, he's going to check here and they're going to do that. And yeah.
This is where the quarterback's going to go. The ball's going to land right here.
Yeah.
Talking about calling plays before they happen. What about the Astros?
You mean the Asterix?
The Houston Asterisks. Yeah, they cheated, man. Like they went above and beyond. I mean, I played baseball my entire life, and we've always stole signs. Like that's a part of the game. But to take it to the level they took it to with cameras, and may or may not have been wearing buzzers, and smacking trash cans, but having video equipment, and then having a database that's breaking down people's like signs.
Yeah.
And to where they can we know exactly what pitch is coming. Like that's taking it above and beyond. Like, anytime you use a computer for that, that goes beyond what you should be doing. But I think it's part of baseball. Like, you get on second base, you get a runner on second base. The catcher's being lazy with his calls. He deserves to get his, he deserves the runner to tip off the batter. But when you get to that point where there's, fake security cameras and, Apple Watches and all this stuff, like that's just crazy. What do you guys think about it? I mean, I'm a Dodgers fan, so I got strong opinions on it. So I'll let you guys talk for a minute.
I mean, I think it just messes with the integrity of the game. Like if a pitcher's tipping pitches or, like there's some, like the catcher, like you said, the catcher being lazy, that's just part of the game.
Yeah.
But when you go, like when you have a camera positioned straight where on the catcher's hands and stealing signs, that takes it to a whole nother level. In my opinion, I'm not. I mean, that's even different than what the Patriots are accused of, in my opinion. Yeah. So, but I will say this, that I've never played baseball, but if a pitch is coming in at 98 miles an hour, I mean, if you're sitting on an off-speed pitch and you hear that trash can beat or whatever, whatever. It does. I mean, it takes something to be able to transition to your thought process on a dime like that from breaking ball to fastball.
Yeah.
And you still have to make contact. You still have to actually hit the ball. So, I mean, there's still some talent there. But yeah, they definitely took it to a whole new level, especially if they were wearing buzzers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just uncalled for, and we don't need that in a game, in my opinion.
No.
I will say, though, whoever it was that came up with the whole computer system and everything to be able to pull off all the sign calling and all of that stuff, they're the first nerd to make their sports father really proud, more than likely.
Well, I think more teams are using the computer to try to guess pitches. and prepare batters a little more. I think, that's like you watching film and things like that in football. Like if they line up, on double tight end set, they're going to run it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that is part of the game because you still don't know what's being thrown. You don't know the communication between the pitcher and the catcher. But like they took it to a whole nother level with the camera.
Yeah.
So.
However, I mean, even though they did that, they cheated throughout the season. They cheated throughout the playoffs. I think they probably cheated the Yankees more than they cheated the Dodgers. Because the two biggest reasons the Dodgers lost the World Series was not the Astros. It was Cody Bellinger and Justin Turner. Because, like, I was thinking about it. 'Cause I remember every time I watched the games, I was getting so mad because all those two guys were doing were trying to hit home runs every at-bat. So, I did some research, for once, unlike my 4 years at college. I actually did a little bit of homework. So, Cody Bellinger in the 2017 World Series had 28 at-bats, right? And out of those 28 at-bats, he had one walk. So, out of 29 plate appearances, he had one walk. Guess how many hits he had?
12.
5.
4?
Close.
Wow.
4 hits. 17 strikeouts.
Wow.
So you're coming up to base. He has 1 home run, 1 triple, 1 double, and he did almost all of that damage he did in the game they lost 13-12. Outside of that, the dude was striking out. The game 1 and game 2, I think, was like 0 for 4, 0 for 3, and there's 7 strikeouts in those first 2 games. And then game 7, he had 4 strikeouts. So Cody Bellinger disappeared. This is their rookie of the year, middle of the lineup hitter. Justin Turner, same World Series. The guy went 4 for 25 luckily with only 4 strikeouts, but still 4 for 25, 4 base on balls. So his on base percentage a little bit higher, it's in the 300s, but a 160 average. So regardless of the Astros hitting, is the fact that the Dodgers didn't hit. The fact that these horrible Astros had guys named Verlander and Cole and Springer or whatever their names were on those mounds and just lighting the Dodgers up. Like they couldn't hit, so that's the main thing. Those guys are going up there trying to hit 3-run home runs with nobody on base every at bat, and that's why they lost. So I'll give it to Houston. They outpitched the Dodgers, and good pitching will always beat good hitting. And in that time, that's what happened.
Joe, what was the score of the other games?
Ooh, game one. Game 1 was, I want to say, like 3-1.
Okay.
Game 2 might have been like 6-5. They were all low-scoring games. There's only, I think, Game 5 was the only one where either team got to double digits, and that was 13-12.
Okay, so they weren't blowouts.
They weren't blowouts. They were all close games within a couple of runs.
Okay, so it's not that they were trying to hit a home run because they had a big deficit.
No, they just as soon as they would get down, as soon as Houston would get up like a run or two, the entire Dodgers lineup would change focus, and you'd see those guys swinging out of their shoes. So that was their biggest problem. The for me, it was the what do you call it? The stage was too big.
Yeah.
The lights were too bright for all those guys and those kids, and they just couldn't handle it.
But they went to 3 World Series in a row, right?
2.
Okay.
No, they got eliminated in the first round this year.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
I thought they went farther the year before that.
Probably the maybe the NLCS.
Okay.
And lost.
Okay.
And but they always do good. They always get past the divisional round.
Okay.
And but no, so for me it was their batters. It was their hitting more so than anything else that lost the World Series for them. Okay. So yeah. And I was at the game where Verlander was throwing the no-hitter against the Dodgers. In game 2 of the World Series?
Yeah.
Top of the stadium. Oh my gosh. Like my World Series experience, we'll just go into it for a second because it was such an amazing moment for me. I'm at the very top of Dodger Stadium behind home plate. Like, I think there's only 2 rows behind me before you're like literally at the top of the stadium.
Hmm.
And the no hitters going on. I think the score is like 2-0 or whatever. And I'm like, because I'm superstitious, I'm a baseball player, and I'm like, why isn't anyone talking about the no hitter? No one's even saying no hitter because as soon as you say no hitter, somebody gets a hit.
Right.
So I'm like tweeting and Facebooking and like, oh my gosh, Verlander's throwing a no hitter. And then of course he gives up a hit, and I'm like, yes, not that it had anything to do with me, but I'll take the credit.
Right.
Superstition. But then the Dodgers start making the comeback, and then Puig hits like a bases clearing double, and it ties the ball game. And it was so loud that the guy 2 seats over from me, because there was a empty seat between us, so I went up to the bathroom. I couldn't hear that guy. That's how loud it was at Dodger Stadium, even at the top of the stadium. So I can imagine field level or below that it was so loud I couldn't hear a guy 3 feet away from me yelling. I just saw his mouth moving, and I just heard basically white noise. So that was a crazy experience. Like, I absolutely loved it, and I couldn't talk for like 3 days after I got home. I sounded horrible.
Bet your wife loved that.
She did. And there's like a video, I did like a Facebook video after I was leaving the stadium, and I'm like, hey guys, it was such a great game, and I'm driving home now. Bye. So, but totally worth it. They lost, but that's still a great memory. So I'll take it. Boo-hoo, my team went to 2 World Series and lost. Like Atlanta did it. They went 5 times, lost 4 in a row.
Right.
And, finally got their one against Cleveland.
Yeah.
Let's not talk
It
about that.
may have gone 6 if it wasn't for the strike in '95.
Yeah. And to me, that was the year too that Ken Griffey Jr. could have broke the home run record, because I think he had, before they went on strike, he was already well over 20 home runs that year. I think it was at like 30.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't even All-Star break yet. So.
Well, talking about the strike, do you guys think that with this coronavirus thing, but do you think there's any chance that the season gets canceled?
I don't think so. I think they'll play abbreviated system games, and I've heard something about the potential, and they're talking with Manfred and all the owners about playing all the teams taking up hotel space in Arizona and playing all the games without any fans if they have to. Because baseball is set up for social distancing. If you think about it, better than any other sport. And so, I think that's an option, but I don't think they'll cancel the season. And I don't think it'll save the Astros from getting plunked, because baseball players and baseball fans don't forget.
That is true.
So I still think, whether it's in 2020 or 2021, I still think whoever was involved that's still in the game, they're going to get thrown at. And they should, in my opinion. But I think every league, because of the loss in revenue and just money and all that, I think they'll try to do everything they can to play, because they still got to pay some of these players. They still have to fill in spots with minor league games. I think if anything gets cut, it's the minor league season. When it comes to baseball.
That's true, and that stinks, because I'm a big minor leagues fan.
And from being at Johnson, we've got the Smokies right up the road, which is affiliated with the Cubs.
Loved the Smokies.
Yeah,
they're a fun team.
They are, and I like the Smokies being up there because they're in the division with the Braves minor league team. Like I saw Jason Hayward, Brian McCann, Jeff Rancor, Freddie Freeman play. As they're coming up through the system. I didn't get to see Acuna play because he didn't spend a lot of time in the system. Some stud athlete like that, you just bring him up as fast as you can. But,
and who was the guy we got to see play?
Starlin Castro.
Yes.
For the Cubs.
He was good.
Yeah, he was. Like, his last his last game at Smokies for the Smokies, he like hit 3 home runs, and then his first game with the Cubs, after he got called up, after that he was like a triple away or a double away from the cycle, which was crazy. But yeah, like I saw up at Smokies, up at the Smoky Stadium, I saw John Smoltz come in and pitch. He came in and pitched for an inning. But that place was packed out. Like they maxed out the ticket sales for that game because he only came in and pitched for an inning, like in the 5th inning. But just seeing him because he never made it back to the Braves because of the arm injury that he had. But that was just something that was really cool that you don't get to see. I mean, and if there's no minor league season, you don't get to see stuff like that. You don't get to see the guys making rehab starts and things like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they're going to do, but every league has to make a decision on what they're going to do.
Yeah, it's tough for the spring and summer sports. Like NFL season, they might have an abbreviated like spring training or summer ball, whatever they call it. But yeah, for like baseball, what are they going to do? Basketball, what are they going to do? College football, because they can't do spring practice and all that stuff right now. So
right.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, but. Yeah, the baseball players, I really feel for the minor league guys because, yeah, they're at home doing nothing.
Right.
The stipend they get, unless they're a bonus baby and got like one of those big bonuses, they don't make anything for money.
Right. Well, if they don't play, they don't get paid.
Yeah. And I don't know if I had heard something, maybe I can look into it more before next time we meet, is I know they said they were going to try to pay the minor leaguers at least something, because even though everyone's on quarantine, that they're going to try to pay them, and it'd be nice because I'd hate to see guys' careers end because of what's going on right now.
Absolutely. All right.
Yeah.
So speaking of, I got a couple of things I want to ask you guys. Speaking of MLB and the potential of them playing in Arizona at the spring training facility with no fans. I've done some digging about what other leagues may do. At this quarantine. So the NFL, they're still going on with the draft. It'll be no fans. They're just going to do it like the old school in a ballroom somewhere, computer, which, it is what it is. I think it's funny to see the fans at the draft anyway, because anybody that the Jets draft, the Jets fans are going to boo.
Or the Philly fans are going to boo.
Every year they boo somebody. They boo every draft pick. Okay, so couple things that I've heard may or may not happen. The NHL, they are thinking as soon as the season comes back, depending on when it is, they're going straight into the playoffs. If it's around that time. Which, if you're an NHL fan, the biggest thing to an NHL team is that Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
And and those players taking it back home for a week or whatever. So fan of that idea, not a fan of that idea.
Maybe not the playoffs, maybe just a big tournament. Like I know they had talked about going to, was it like North Dakota, South Dakota, because there's a ton of hockey rinks out there for like minor league hockey. And I think it'd be cool if they just did like a big round robin tournament, like they do for other sports like soccer, softball, all that stuff. Have everybody play each other and then do a seeding from there, and then like a single elimination tournament. And it'd be quick, it'd be abbreviated, and they'd probably get it done in like 2 months, if not quicker.
Well, how far into the season were they already?
They are about as far as the NBA was.
Okay.
Because the NBA and NHL season runs, I think, parallel, which is crazy, but it is what it is.
I'd say then, like, I like Joe's idea, but instead of doing where, like, you have everyone play each other once, instead of doing that, just go into seeds based off of where they were at in the season, and everyone still plays, but it's single elimination until you get down to, the last 2 or 3 rounds.
So you get down to whatever would be the normal playoffs?
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. Is hockey like basketball where like everybody but 4 teams gets to make the playoffs?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
and for
They
the
were
longest
70
time, the Columbus Blue Jackets never got into the playoffs. So
They were in they were 70, 71 games. Like some teams played 69, some teams played 70, some teams played 71
Oh, okay.
into their season. So I'm looking up the NBA season right now. So yeah, they were NBA. Yeah, they were about the same as the NHL had a little bit more into their season than NBA did.
Yeah.
So speaking of the NBA has decided they are going to televise a single elimination horse tournament on ESPN with current stars, WNBA stars, retired players. Like recently retired, not like Michael Jordan and Larry Bird aren't going to be out there. But I am in for Michael Jordan and Larry Bird playing horse.
I
I'm
was
just
gonna
saying,
say
I'm in for
down.
that.
Like,
I'm
yeah.
there for that. But good idea, bad idea.
You know what? I like it, especially right now, just because it's, what else? What other choice do we have? But I think it's pretty fun. It's cool if they market it correctly, if they present it correctly on TV, and like this is fun. This is tongue in cheek, and we're just out here goofing off. And it goes back to like, oh man, early '90s when they did I want to say '92 in the slam dunk contest, and it wasn't all NBA players. Like, you had Deion Sanders in the dunk contest. You had Olympic athletes in the slam dunk contest, outside of just NBA players. So I like it, especially if they have people outside of the NBA, like maybe some mainstream athletes and actors and stuff like that playing horse. That'd be pretty cool, especially if they're mic'd up and just talking trash.
that would be my thing. Is they have to be mic'd up and they have to be allowed to talk trash.
Yeah.
Okay, well, here's my thought. They used to do a horse competition part of the NBA weekend. They don't do it anymore. There's a reason why they don't do it anymore. Nobody watched it. Bad idea, in my opinion.
But what else are people going to watch right now?
Yeah.
Replay old games.
They are. No one's watching those either.
Well, but nobody's going to watch this because they're not even going to be together. They're going to be at their own house. They've already said that they can't dunk because that's not fair for the WNBA players. And think about it. These guys, all of these guys are the top of their sport. They're paid not to miss. I don't like it. There's a reason why they don't do it on NBA weekend or All-Star weekend anymore. Horse isn't a sport. It's a kid's game.
Yeah, but
I'm going to watch it.
They were still wrestling.
Kevin Hart added to the mix of that, you will have tons of people watching just to hear Kevin Hart smack talk against the Greek Freak. Oh my goodness, that would be amazing.
But see, here's the thing: it's not even the NBA's top athletes. It's Trey Young. Like LeBron's not doing it. Jason Tatum's not doing it. They've already got the field set. It's a bad idea. Not well done, in my opinion. But anyway, we'll move on. Okay, one other. The MLB is doing has picked one player from each team, from each franchise, and they are playing in a video game tournament, playing the show on Twitch.
Nice.
Thoughts?
I think it's cool. It's showing that they're still trying to keep the fans connected. And when you look at the people who are actually playing, a lot of these guys have great personalities.
Right.
Like, you want to look at, just Bo Bichette. Like, I don't know if you've had a chance to see that kid or not, but he's hilarious. He's got a great personality, funny. Young guy. You look at the Dodgers, Gavin Lux, their rookie second baseman, is going to be playing. Fernando Tatis Jr. Like, so much smack talk. You're getting all these guys who are like early mid-20s. Dude, this is hopefully they're sober, because I could see some of these guys enjoying themselves a little too much, and they might have to highly edit some of these games. But I love it. I'm gonna watch it, but then I tune into a lot of those, like on YouTube and stuff, like certain websites where they're playing video games and smack talking and stuff like that, like the Madden
Right.
tournaments that like wrestlers do and stuff like that. I like it. I think it's cool. I can't wait to watch it.
Okay, and I will say they are playing the show. I don't know if I mentioned that, and they are playing on Twitch. So if they get a little mouthy,
That's
it's
true.
on the
It's
internet.
gonna be
So,
live, yeah.
right, it's live on the internet, so it's a little bit different.
I'm
Than it
looking
being
at
on
some of these
ESPN.
players. It's gonna be fun. Joey Gallo is representing um is representing the Rangers. That dude he's something else. Oh, speaking of like baseball and all this stuff, we're talking about people being mic'd up. Did you guys see any of the MLB players during spring training when they had the guys mic'd up?
I did
And
not.
No.
oh
not.
man, Andy, as a Braves fan, look up Freeman. There's a little, and it's a clip that's online, and he's on first base, and he's talking, he's mic'd up, and then he's actually talking to the announcers, and the ball gets hit, and you hear him going, "Oh wait, there's wind," and he goes from first to home on a pop-up, a 2-out pop-up just behind shortstop,
Yeah.
and scores, and I love it because you hear these guys like talking, and then I think another one, Freeman's like at first base, and he's like, "Oh man, this guy's gonna hit it over here. I know he's gonna hit it over here." And he takes a step to his right, and the ball gets hit, and he catches it, and he's like, "Haha, I freaking told you." Except for he used the other language, but it's cool hearing them like talk or hearing them like smack talk to each other, and I like the mic'd up MLB players. Yeah.
I would love to hear Ronald Acuna mic'd up if he spoke English. I think that dude would talk smack better than anybody.
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm against him speaking Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. I wouldn't be able to understand it. Wouldn't be able to enjoy it.
Yeah.
I gotta
I know
say
he's
though,
saying something good.
yeah, you can tell though when they're talking, if they're talking smack or if they're like just being nice. And it's always like for me, I enjoy in like wrestling when the Japanese wrestlers start getting mouthy.
Yeah.
I love that. And I enjoy that. And I will tell you, you'll hear me talk a lot about wrestling, and that is because I love watching wrestling with my kids. We talked about this before, that we are all about not just sports and not just our faith and food, but we're also about our families. And with my family, one of the big things is that's one thing my kids and I can enjoy together. And my wife even likes wrestling a little bit. She won't admit it, but she does.
Mine doesn't admit it either. But yeah.
When we first got married and I said, "Oh, we don't have to watch Monday Night Raw." "Oh, no, we can watch Monday Night Raw. That's okay." "Is Brock Lesnar going to be on tonight?" "Okay, yeah." So she does like it.
It's Raw, so probably not.
Yeah.
But
it's not a pay-per-view, so no.
no, yeah. But my family, I've got 3 kids, a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 3-month-old. We are like rabbits at my house, so having kids popping out all the time.
What does that mean, Joey?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Well,
That's your mom. But I will say, with my family, like for us, it's really important to spend time together. And really, like being a minister, it's really hard sometimes, I'll be honest, to have a life where you focus on your ministry, you focus on your family, you focus on your personal faith, and you focus on just you. And one thing I've learned is with wrestling, even with my kids, that's something I liked before I got married, but they all like it too. So we can all enjoy it together. And I'm discovering more and more, even with my kids, as I spend time with them throughout, especially during this coronavirus quarantine time, when I'm spending time with my kids and we're just hanging out and we are talking or wrestling around, I'm getting a lot more quality time with them right now,
Mm-hmm.
and it's awesome because I'm really getting to know my kids more because they're all starting to get personalities. My 2-year-old son, he's learned how to dance from me, so that's scary. It's not good, but uh, he loves doing it, and he also like is really just getting into like his personality. He's becoming very sarcastic and just like a jokester and a prankster. And I'll tell you probably as we go throughout. I know we'll all talk about our families more and more. So that's just a little insight into my family a little bit. Joe, tell us about your family a little bit.
Yeah, man. Me and my wife this year in June will be celebrating 21 years of marriage, 23 years of being together, and we're both. She's not 41 yet; she's just barely 40, and I'm 41. She'll be 41 later. We have a 20-year-old son who is also an independent professional wrestler. We're a tag team. We wrestle lucha out in LA, which is absolutely amazing for us to do together. And then we wrestle singles for different companies around Southern California. And he's also a college student. He majors in communication. He's doing audiovisual editing. I'm proud of this kid. He just got a full ride scholarship because he's transferring from junior college to a 4-year, and it's a private university, and he got a full ride, so we don't have to pay anything for the next 2 years of school for him. And I'm proud of him for all the hard work for that. Then I have my 17-year-old daughter, and she's a guitar player, and she sings at church, heavy into ministry. She's so much like me. It's scary, very stubborn, very strong-willed, very opinionated, and but also a really good student, also college bound. And then I have my 12-year-old daughter, who's like I call her my mini-me, even though she's a lot more like her mom than she is me. We cook together, we hang out together, watch cartoons together. I call her my little chef. And one thing that's important to me about family, is me and each one of my kids have our own thing. Like me and my son, we have wrestling. We go lift weights together. We go train together. We make sure to get our time in together. Me and my daughter, we play guitar, play music. She sings. I can't sing for anything, so I'm not gonna try. But we have our time together. And then me and my youngest daughter, we cook. If I'm in there cooking, she's right there with me, my little sous chef or my little mini chef. And I make time for that, because in the midst of doing all those things, we're having our conversations, we're bonding, we're learning about each other, and it's a great medium to have really deep conversations, while you're practicing music or while you're cooking or while you're driving to a wrestling show, 2 hours out of town. And it's cool. It's awesome. And then, outside of that, I do a ton of youth ministry. Me and my wife do high school ministry together. We're not pastors. We just volunteer with the youth group, but that's our entire life. It's dedicated to kids, our kids, other people's kids, and the community. So it's a little bit about my faith and my family. What about you, Andy, Mr. Minton?
Yeah, me and my wife, we met in high school, didn't date. We knew of each other, but we reconnected after our Johnson days. And then we got married, and then I think about a year ago, no, about 2 years ago, around this time, she started talking about feeling like we were called to be foster parents, and I really wasn't on board at the time, but I told her I would go through the classes and things like that, and then. Felt like God was saying, this is something we needed to do. And so we are now foster parents of a little 7-year-old girl. And it is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. But it's also one of the most rewarding, just to have this little person that was, brought up in a home life that was not great. And now, hearing her prayers at night, and we've been live streaming church services on YouTube like the rest of like every other Christian in America. And just her seeing her worship and things like that is pretty awesome. And she went to summer camp with us last year, this past summer, because with the state, you have to have to leave them at somewhere more than 48 hours. They have to that house has to be inspected and things like that. So and that's just a process that if you're not going to have a full-time foster kid, it's hard to do because it's very intrusive. Um, and but yeah, so she went, and I mean it was a great experience for her. Uh, and yeah, it was like I said, it's just one of the hardest things. And tonight was a hard night, just because she comes from so much trauma. I mean, anybody taken away from their parents, I mean it's trauma. But then on top of the reason why they're taken away, which is a lot of neglect, abuse, or whatever. So yeah, it's hard, but I mean it's definitely something that's needed in our country because we have so many kids that are in the system right now that just need parents to love them and a place to call home, and people to love them in spite of the trauma and the things that they go through. So yeah, that's where we're at with our family.
Right on. It's unfortunate you have to take care of someone else's kid, but it's awesome that you guys are able and capable of doing that because that's not an easy job.
Yeah.
Well, and one thing I want to throw out there is we've talked off air about how if you have a heart to do it, there's kids that need foster parents. If you've got the heart to, but if you don't have, like if you're sitting there and you don't have the heart to, or you don't have the means or the housing or whatever else, you can always pray for and always be there to help. Andy, can you tell a little bit about, you were telling us off air about how like even taking the classes to be able to take a kid in for like a weekend so that the foster parents can actually get like a break.
Yeah.
For like a weekend break.
Yeah, they like any foster parent can use a babysitter, and you don't have to go through any classes to do that. Just for one night, for like a date night or something like that. But yeah, I mean, if you feel called to help, but you really don't have space, or you can even, I don't want to say test the waters, but that's essentially what it is. You can go through the process, go through the classes, and go through the home inspection. And do a thing that's called respite, which basically means that if my wife and I were going away for the weekend, that we could call you and ask you to keep our daughter for a week or a weekend past that 48-hour mark. And in that, there's aid from the state with that you get and stuff like that to help out. But it's hard. It's hard to find somebody that has the ability to keep them on those longer periods of time. Like we benefit from from my sister-in-law. They had to go through the home inspection process for 2 kids that they have, and so like when we went, me and my wife went to Asheville to celebrate our anniversary. Our daughter was able to go over there and hang out with nieces or nephews, and it's been the weekend with them, which was great. But not everybody has that. There's not a lot of community in the foster parent system because there's parents always in and out. This wasn't cut out for me or whatever. It's hard. It's tough. A lot of the families we went through classes with have already, they're not doing it. So, I mean, it's tough. It's hard. It's taxing spiritually, emotionally, physically, financially, in every way that you could think. But I think, we live in a fallen world, and it's definitely a ministry that needs people, needs help. It's just a broken system, and it needs your patience, just like anything else does. But there are kids out there that need parents that love them, or needs a home and a parent that will take care of them.
Yeah. But something you said there, Andy, about how it's taxing on your faith and everything else. And I feel like you've got that on your plate Joe talked about he's got a job, he works ministry also, and he does wrestling, and like I've got a family, I've got ministry, I've got other things that I do on the side. Used to do rapping and stuff like that, but that's another show. We can talk about
we'll
that.
talk about that later.
Yeah. Oh, that'll come up later.
We are
sure.
going to talk about that.
Yes. I straight.
But I say all this that there is a taxing on all of our faith through stuff like just with general life stuff, but with the coronavirus and everything else, it seems like there's more of a taxing on people's faith. What are you guys doing to like keep your faith strong through this? And like, how are you reaching out? Because we all have some sort of ministry background and work with ministry in one way or another. How are you reaching out and connecting after you've strengthened your faith during this time? Andy, you want to go?
Yeah. Well, for me, my situation is a little bit different right now. I was let go from my church about a month before all this started, so I don't have that on my plate right now about connecting. But I do love seeing the way my youth pastor friends are connecting with people and their students. Personally, I am using this time to go through a book of prayer that was written by the Puritans called Valley of Vision. I found a pastor that had developed a prayer guide for it daily, 3 times a day. So 3 times a day I just read a prayer that was written by a Puritan. And they are meaty, they're deep, and just the things that they, if you just read the things that they prayed, and I mean they understood the sovereignty of God, which during this time is extremely important because we know that God hasn't left us. He's not surprised by the COVID-19. He's still in control. He still knows what he's doing. And it's as ministers, not just ministers but believers, we have to continue to present the gospel and continue to reach out as much as we can because we've never seen life like this. And so I think right now it's more crucial than others to share that love of Christ because there's people that need answers out there.
Yeah. Most definitely. I know just in my home, it's crazy enough, like everything I do, I teach classes, I teach for other tribes, I'm always traveling. But I've learned to just enjoy the calmness right now. I know it's chaos because we're not living our normal lives and there's a lot of extra stresses, but I've just taken the time to pray and I've asked God to help me appreciate just my family more. Because granted, my kids are older, my son's 20, my daughter's 17, my youngest daughter's 12. They're all growing up, they're all doing their own thing. But we've taken this opportunity to grow together and spend time together, share more meals together, pray together, and appreciate the fact that this is temporary because eventually, my son's 20 right now. In 2 years, 3 years, he could be married and gone, doing his own thing, living who knows where. So I've done a lot of praying, and I just want to appreciate the fact that we're going slow right now and life's a little bit calmer inside my house. With ministry outside of it, we're doing a lot of Zoom meetings, a lot of like Skypes and like FaceTimes and stuff like that with my youth group. We played a game called Mafia. I don't know if you've ever played Mafia or not. But we're playing it on Zoom, which is pretty interesting. So you have to have your medic and your doctor and all these crazy different characters, and you're doing it on a computer screen versus in a room. So it was entertaining. So we're still staying connected like that, and then just ministering to people at work. I'm fortunate enough to go inside or to go into my office a couple days a week, and a lot of people are stressed out. A lot of people are freaking out, and I'm just trying to, even though I'm stressed out and freaking out too, just share the love of God with them and share an example with them and pray with them and try to uplift them as much as possible during this crazy time. And I think one of the biggest things is just teaching people to enjoy the fact that we can't be going 100 miles an hour right now. And we're not, because normally every weekend, me and my family are at Universal Studios, or we're in LA somewhere, we're at the beach, and we never just enjoy the fact that we have a nice house with a nice yard and just each other's company, because we're always gone. So for me, slow down and let God speak to me. And I've appreciated it, and He's taught me a lot. A lot of it I didn't want to learn right now, but He's taught me a lot, and that's what He normally does.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So about you, Joey?
Yeah, that's something God's been doing with me through, like, in our reaching out at our church. We're a little bit bigger of a church, about 700 members. And so one thing we decided as a staff, we've got 6 of us ministers on staff, and we decided that if we each took 40 families, we would hit every single family in the church. And so we call all 40 families, and then I call all my students also in the youth group. And then we're doing sermons online, Zoom meetings, and doing daily, like I do a daily Bible study on Facebook Live that's like 5 minutes long, talking about Proverbs. And for me, one of the cool things is, as I've gone through that, I've made an effort, and I've told my students, even during this time, we need to have hope and trust in Jesus. But if we're not strengthening our faith and strengthening who we are as Christians, then that we won't have a strong hope or faith through all of this. So by strengthening and building ourselves up, our faith and hope grows stronger and stronger. So I've been going through that, and as I've done that, one verse actually stuck out to me today in Proverbs 17:17. A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. And to me, like, I feel like this is a time of adversity. Like, this is a time where there's high stress. Everyone's freaking out. It's just everyone's stressing out because of being stuck in home, not being able to get out. Are you going to get to see the NBA playoffs? Are you going to get to see any of your favorite sports teams play? Is baseball going to get canceled? I mean, that's the sports world aspect of it, but everyone's freaking out about other stuff too. Am I going to lose my job? I lost my job. Am I going to be able to find a job? What are we going to do? Is the economy going to fall apart? As all this adversity is around, one thing I've discovered is, as I call all the people in my church, all the brothers and sisters in Christ around me, they help build up. And so for me, God's been teaching me the importance of having people in your life that you can just talk to about what's going on. And that's one of the cool things that I've enjoyed about Joe and Andy here is we've been able to, I mean, we were in college 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Together. And we've not actually seen each other face to face, like in person, in these past 7 years. But we still keep in contact, and we're still able to build each other up. And if one of us is having a bad day, we can encourage each other. If we're struggling or if we're making big life decisions, we can still talk to each other about stuff like that. And that's what I'm learning through this is the stronger relationship that you have with other Christians. It helps not only your relationship with Christ, but just helps each other to build each other up. That's kind of what God's been teaching me through this is the importance of having people like that in your life to help build up. It's been really cool.
Yeah, and and earlier I talked about the sovereignty of God, and we know that we have to remember that God is in control, but it's also okay to ask questions and ask why things are happening, because we just celebrate Easter, and just reading through that narrative. Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane with his disciples, and he was praying. He prayed for this cup. If there was any other way, if there's anybody that understood God was always in control and had a plan, it was Jesus. But even still, right before the toughest part of his life, he prayed. If there was any other way, there was in him to say, if there's another way, let's do that. But he knew there was no other way. He knew that way he was facing was inevitable, and it had to happen like that. So it's okay for us to ask questions and wonder and have that relationship with God. But I think, and just know that if you all need us, prayer, reach out or whatever, you can catch us on social media. All of our social media for the show on Twitter and Instagram, it's M2_PowerHour. Facebook, and we even have a YouTube. It's M2.PowerHour because for some reason Facebook and YouTube do not do the underscores. So there's a little bit of difference there. But yeah, reach out. And we'll link our personal stuff there too. So you can reach out if you just need somebody to talk to, somebody to pray for you, whatever. We're here for that because we love sports, we love food, we love our families. But the most important thing about all three of us is our faith. So I think that'll wrap up for this episode. So we thank everybody for listening. And we're gonna sign off, and we'll see you next week.
All right.
See you, everyone.
See you guys soon.